continuing our vid blogs
Yeah.
on the seeds of decline in
Yeah.
moves of God.
Yeah,
You've got some more observations.
I have. Yeah. And once again, I want these to come across as positive things to help, you know, just little reminders. But I've called this one Developing a Methodology. Developing a methodology. And basically, I got this one from, we've all been in meetings, haven't we, where the Holy Spirit has moved, and 3 hours later, you're like, flip that wing quick. Yeah? And that's like the best, isn't it?
We love it.
Yeah. We've also been in meetings. I was brought up all my life in traditional church, and I've known the experience of watching a clock, counting the seconds, and a minute being like 1,000 years. Yeah, it's very relative time, isn't it? And it really depends of how intense it is for you, or lack of intensity, and it seems to go on forever. And what I've noticed is that we can develop methods from things that seem to have worked in the past. Now, as a worship leader, we're worship leaders, aren't we, Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, or we do our best. And you find the little things that you try sometimes, they work. Yeah. And they seem to create a lift or whatever. And they become part of your armoury, don't they? They're like things you can pull out. Yeah. And what I found is they'll work over and over again for a season, but in the end, they lack the zing, you know, and it's almost like, I'm not going to do that anymore. Yeah. You know, it's almost people where you're singing a song and you break out with certain words, so-called spontaneous, but you always break out with those words. And people remember that you always, and it's lost the freshness and the inspiration. And what I've noticed is with moves of the Holy Spirit, is God often disrupts the normal pattern of things. So for instance, I remember with a Toronto blessing, he would interrupt people speaking. And you're talking about gifted, good communicators, well thought through, great presentation, you know, PowerPoint, the works, and they just couldn't get a word out. And this would go on for hours, or they just couldn't stop laughing. Yeah? Yes. And it would go on for hours, but it would be like, there would be such a tangible presence of God. Yeah. And I think heaven's going to be a bit like this. Rob Bell talks about this in his new controversial book, about the intensity of experience means that time loses its perspective, you know. And I think often we find that with a move of the Holy Spirit, there's an intensity that causes time to just go out the window. Yeah. But as a result of that, the temptation then is to, every time you get up and speak, you to begin to believe that laughing triggers a movement of the Holy Spirit. The thing is, God is doing that at the time, so it does. Yes. Yeah. But it becomes a methodology. And what's more, all other ways of speaking, gifts of communication that God's given to people, abilities are somehow disregarded, you know, even camera work, as you know, don't need all of that. All we need is to get up and just be hit by the Holy Spirit, and so people will get up and they'll do all the things that look like they're being hit by the Holy Spirit, because they've begun to think that by doing that, the Holy Spirit will be released upon a group of people and time will lose its dimension. And that's what I call by methodology. The temptation is to use what God's doing and turn it into a method to get a result, when he was actually interrupting us to get our attention with that kind of manifestation. He never intended us to use it as a method from now on, and this is the way it's always going to be, you know. So I know at the moment incredible drunkenness is something that often hits people in meetings. But going up the front and acting drunk is turned it into a method. Yes. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we just got to be wary of that. Having said that, you know, as a worship leader, I do use techniques that have worked before. And if it worked again, that's great. But you've got to just be watching out for, that's how shelf life is over for that one. You know, or let's keep that one for a time and just pull it out when God leads me to, not just use it and so on. The other thing is that because it's so wrapped up with what God's doing, it's so fantastic, it's just so amazing and it's so exciting, that the temptation is to disregard all the gifting that's in the body. You know, the fact that actually some people are really good communicators. And God isn't saying that we don't want communicators anymore. He's just saying at this moment in time, I want to interrupt you in your pride of being a good communicator and do my own thing.